Welcome back to another Strong Talk podcast. I'm Kalle Beck, joined by
Mike Battolino?
See, you're even confused when you say your name.
Who? Mike? I'll have to tag him and see who he is.
Yeah, it's at Chrono Strength, I believe, but a little delayed on this because last week you were competing in the SoFit Platinum Plus competition down in somewhere in Florida, Jacksonville.
So I think based on what the shirt said, I think it was the Southeast Strongest competition because that's what the shirt said.
Yeah.
I never got a name. We never really figured out the name until we got there, and it was like, oh, it's this. Okay.
Well, the SoFit Expo is what the
The
expo was?
expo, yeah, the expo was the SoFit Expo,
Okay.
but I think SoFit means
Southern.
Southeast Fittest. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, it wasn't the Southeast, so we may never know.
Yeah. But it was Platinum Plus in Jacksonville. You competed as a heavyweight.
I did.
There was a good. It was a lot of. It's funny with the Platinum Pluses is there's always like there'll be what 3 or 4 of them or so a year that and most of them will give out a pro card, and it seems like there's always one that like no one shows up to for whatever
Yeah.
reason, and then there's one that everyone shows up to.
Sure. Yeah.
And that was this one.
Yeah. Everyone can. Up in the beginning, because strongmen like to send in their entry forms really quickly. Kidding. Some people do. I do because I like to go last in the first event, but that's beside the point. But yeah, up until like a month out, it looked like there were like 6 guys going, and then all of a sudden Dion updated the list, and there were more than 20.
Yeah.
I think at one point there were 24, and it ended up 2 people dropped out, so we were down to 22. Still quite a few.
Yeah, there's right around 20, and I think right at or right below 30 in the middleweights, the 231s.
It's pretty good.
And then roughly 10 each in the strongest woman in the world contest for light, middle, and heavyweights.
Yeah.
I think it was like 10, 9, and 9.
It was a busy day, so busy in fact that we were supposed to be out of the expo center by 5, and at 6:30 security was trying to ask us to leave.
And had you done stones yet?
No, that was when stones were starting.
We're starting.
Thankfully, the strongest woman in the world competition, they did the stones the next day, so it was just the men that we just kind of had to like hustle.
Yeah. But I was, of course, able to watch the entire event. So that's how I spent my entire weekend pretty much was have it set up. And I have Apple TV, so I can hit a button and then just starts playing on my television. Anything
Sweet.
that's on my computer, which is pretty cool. So I watched that. It was, I think, on flowelite.com. It was fairly well done on the broadcast. I think there's, it's great that everything's being live streamed. I think there's some improvements that can be made.
Yeah.
Definitely. And, it's out of my control. I can just say as a viewer, what I'd like to see is, I don't know, some sort of rep counter.
Now, did this one have the weight? It looked like the weights were displayed a little bit. Is that right?
Yeah, it would say
Okay.
what division and what weight it
Oh,
was.
okay.
One thing I noticed is like if it was like the last heat of middleweights, it would switch to the heavyweight weights.
Oh, okay.
So there was a little bit of confusion there. And I'm not trying to be too negative about it, but like the other thing that was annoying me is there was a lot of panning in on one lane when they're doing
Oh, really?
reps,
Okay.
which I didn't understand. So I was actually trying to do like event by event breakdowns for Flow for the strongest woman in the world contest, and technically for the men's side, but that was just pretty much impossible. And I told them, I said, I can do this, but I can't. Like, there's 30 people in each group, and I can't keep up. Like, it's easier to keep up with like 9 or 10 competitors and what's going on.
I really think
3 or 4 heats.
It became a lot bigger than expected.
Mm-hmm.
I think initially, it was going to be because I don't even remember. I remember hearing about it towards the end of last year. I don't remember if in the beginning they had the strongest woman in the world competition there. I don't recall that.
Well,
But I think in the future, I'm pretty sure they're going to split it up.
yeah, I think it should definitely something when you're trying to make a contest just like that. I think it should be a standalone contest
Yeah,
because you're trying to make a big deal out of something,
sure.
or minimum don't offer a pro card so every guy that's over 300 pounds in Texas doesn't show up.
Right, because you had every female competitor wanted to win their title,
Uh-huh.
strongest woman in the world, and then you had the middleweights and the heavyweights that are like, yeah, I want to get a pro card, so I'm gonna go.
Yeah, but as far as the women, it was a invite comp, so they had to have placed top three at a couple specific shows, like California Strongest Woman, or had placed highly at nationals or the Arnold, basically. So it wasn't like any 180-pound
Right,
strong woman could show up.
and most of them were pros. Yes, was it all or
Yeah,
most?
yeah, most. And when you say pro, they were kind of after the fact. Everyone who made day two at the Arnold or had
Right.
previously won an Arnold amateur championship was it was awarded their pro card after the
Mhm.
fact. So yeah, the majority of them were. There was a couple, and most of the women that did make day two at the Arnold earlier this year did show up for the most part.
I mean, it was an awesome competition to watch. I mean, it was all day, but it really didn't feel like it because I enjoyed watching everyone else going when I was when I was kind of waiting for my turn. I was it passed the time well when I was like, all right, well, a couple hours, I'll be going again.
Yeah, I think it was a perfect amount of competitors in the women division. I think like 10 competitors per class it's easy to follow,
Yeah.
and it's perfect. Like once it's one of the things like when it gets to like 30 competitors, it's like, wait, who is that? So like for myself, just trying to kind of keep tabs on what's going on, I'd kind of tune out and I'd like start doing my write up
Mhm.
for each of the women's class, like while like the first groups of men were going to, because once it's towards the end of the heats, it's kind of those are the people midway that are they
Mhm.
had won one of the previous events. Um, but yeah, I think Mike Gill was commentating, and he was doing I think he did a great job for Flow League, but it really seems like I think there needs to be two people. That's a lot of work,
And like
watching
you
two
said, the rep
lanes.
the rep counter would help,
Yeah.
especially on the deadlift when you're like, was that 36 or 41? I,
Yeah.
I I have no idea. I mean, and
No.
you're trying to report on it, and you're like, I think she won.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's you don't know which wasn't count. If this one was, I can't watch Jill Mill's hand every time to see if she said no or yes, and then especially when it switches just and you're like trying to count kind of both, like okay they're both at 10, they're both at 11, then it zooms right in on one of them and I'm like, well, I don't know what
Dude,
happened over there.
I really wish I don't know if it showed up on the live stream. So I was sitting in the stands with my wife and friends when the middleweights were going, kind of waiting for my turn to deadlift. And there was a dude in Jill's lane. He was a middleweight, and he was looking at her for the down call. But dude, he had like 1,000 yard stare. I was like, wow, that dude. I mean, like, it was scary, man. I need to go back and flow elite and see if I can find. I was like, oh, yep, there he is. Uh, yeah, I don't know. It was something else. If anyone saw it in the live stream, you should comment because I
Yeah.
was like, wow, that dude is intense. Like, was that good? Yeah, that was good, wasn't it? 42. Yeah, all right.
But yeah, it was but overall it was great. I think it was great to be able to watch it at all. And judging by what I just saw, that they released like the upcoming schedule of events they're covering, is they're
Oh, okay,
covering
cool.
like almost every major strongman show,
Oh, wow. Okay.
like a
Well, wait.
lot
Are
at
are they
least.
are they covering World's Strongest Man?
No,
Oh, why not?
um,
Is it because it's a TV show?
yeah, because it's a TV show and they
Uh,
don't even care. Like,
they're trying
I,
to make money off of it.
yeah. So, but they are going to. I saw they're going to they're calling it, Giants Live is putting it out as the official World's Strongest Woman, which I think is on September 17th.
Okay.
This is not to be confused with Strongest Woman in the World, which we're talking about right now.
So that's Kristen Rhodes is going to that.
Yeah.
Okay, so because she dropped out of
she's
last weekend.
Yeah, she said she's learned that you can only really do
right
one show, which I agree. Like unless you're like 22, you can't do back-to-back shows like that. But yeah, she actually sent me a competitors list for Strongest Woman in the World, which is I think it's in England I think so, or Ireland, somewhere over there. It's on the other side.
So I pulled up that list because it says it's in Doncaster.
Yeah, that's in England, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then it looks like they're covering. Okay, so it says America's Strongest Man is in Texas.
It is.
So it says Mesquite, Texas.
Okay, all right.
I didn't know that.
There we go. Heard it here first.
Hold on,
I know I did.
I might be.
Oh, it is.
I think to cover this.
I think it might be because I talked to Josh Thigpen and he was interested in doing it.
Dude. Oh, I'm way going. It's only 2 hours away.
All right. Well, you heard it here. Mike is going to go compete at America's Strongest Man.
And get destroyed.
No.
Oh, here's Mike lifting the yoke and now he's dead. All right. Well.
Yeah, there's 1,000
pounds. This was exciting.
Yeah, so they're going to cover World's Strongest Woman and Master's Strongest Man, which is going to be the Mark Felix / Nick Best show, I think.
Yep.
America's Strongest Man, Nationals, and I saw other stuff in there.
Yeah, some of these I'm not sure exactly what they are.
Yeah, there's some that they had like strongman type names, but they could be a CrossFit contest.
Right.
I don't know.
Like the Atlas Project and the Atlas Games?
Yeah, don't know what those are. It sounds like if that was a strongman contest, I wouldn't be surprised.
Be a good name.
But
Atlas Games.
But I haven't heard of it, so I assume it's going to be CrossFit because if it was strongman, I would have heard of it.
Oh, the Killcliff Crush Games, I think that's out. Pretty sure that's
definitely. There's too much money in that one for it to be strongman.
Yeah, it says Killcliff, we're out.
Yeah,
it's got to be CrossFit.
But,
all right, so should we talk about the specific events from last weekend that everyone competed in?
Yeah, well, you were there, so you'd know better than me, even though I watched it.
Well, we all did the log, and that was fun for everyone else.
Everyone but Mike.
Everyone but Mike. It's funny because you train on one log, in training leading up to a competition, and I thought we were using the Pitbull log. No, I'm sorry. I thought we were using a big dog. I thought we were using the big dog.
Okay.
And then the night before, I was really excited because I saw, they had a Rogue log, and I love the Rogue log because it's the same. Yeah, because it's the same weight. Like one log is the same weight as another log.
You mean it's 135? It's like 130, 135 pounds versus this one's not 110. This one's not 97 or whatever.
I'm sure someone knew how much the logs weighed, but I was like, how much does the black log weigh? Like, I don't know. How much does the red one weigh? I don't know. But when I was warming up, like, I'm generally, I use a 120 empty log, and it feels pretty good. This one was a little longer, and it was 105 empty, and I was just like, And when it's kind of circa max, and you're throwing, like a wrench in the plans, I promise that one day I won't suck at pressing. But anyway, log was pretty exciting for every weight class. Since you were able to watch the women's a little more closely since I was warming up, did you see any performances that you remember?
Yeah,
anyone knocking out a lot of reps?
Well, Danny in the middleweights.
Yeah,
I think her last name's Schwabe or something like that.
I think that's how you pronounce it, right?
Yeah, that's close enough. Anyways, but yeah, she put up 12.
Wow.
At 175.
That's pretty
in 60 seconds, and it looked like if it was 2 minutes, she would have got 20.
Like so for you non-math wizards, that's a rep every 5 seconds.
Yeah. But it was like, and she didn't viper them either, or one motion, whatever you want to call it. I don't like using the term viper. They were like push jerks, push presses, but very consistent movement the entire time. It was very deliberate, and it was It wasn't like how if I'd ever done like a high rep set, like a contest where it's like I do almost all of them in 30 seconds, then I look like I'm going to die for the remaining
Yeah.
time. It was just like, she just kept going. Like she could have went 90 seconds, 2 minutes, and I don't think it would have really slowed. It must be nice to have like real conditioning. But
Yeah, there was I saw them go some of them were going the whole minute. I was like, oh. Some
yeah,
of the men did as well.
yeah. Chris Burke did really well on the middleweight.
Yeah.
He got 8, and then Alex Bromley I think won with 9. Who he's always been a phenomenal presser. He was doing strongman like right before I started. He's from Southern California. So people are like, I've never even heard of that guy, and I'm like, no, he's been around for a long time. Like people are messaging me after the event, after the log press.
What happened to old Chunky Cheese when he was going?
He fell down.
I saw him. Oh, he fell. Okay, because I turned, and then all of a sudden, like everyone was like, "Oh!" And I had no idea what had happened.
Yeah.
But he ended up winning, so I guess he was okay.
Yeah, Jeff Lee likes to make it dramatic. Like that's it's even what I put in my write up. Like what guys to watch for Flow Elite. I put him because he barely missed his pro card, and like I think Andrew Clayton beat him by half a point at Kumite, another great name for a strongman contest.
It was. That's a hell of a name.
But he only, Andrew Clayton beat him by like just half a point, and Andrew got mad at me on Facebook and said like he ran like 3 marathons before he did it or whatever he does. Like I was like saying he cheated for cutting weight, and I'm like, okay, buddy, I was giving you a compliment, but all right.
I certainly could. I couldn't run a marathon the day after doing a Platinum Plus. I'll tell you that much.
No,
it's the last thing I wanted.
You're not hybrid, so.
And then I did watch the heavyweights go. I watched Gabe Pena go versus Trey. That was pretty exciting. I think Trey ended up okay. So it was. I think Trey probably would have gotten an extra rep, but they were doing like I forget if it was like a ready and then a whistle. Mm-hmm. So we hadn't really established that before we started going. So Trey cleans the log and looks over to see if Gabe's going yet, and then he kept going. And I was like, he probably could have gotten another rep, but yeah, he didn't know. He was like, man, did I just beat the start command? He's like, oh no, better go. So I think Trey did 7.
That's so honest of him.
Yeah.
Like honestly,
I don't know.
You just
should I go?
I think you're supposed to just keep doing it until someone tells you that was wrong.
No, put it down. We haven't started yet.
Who was it?
But he got 7, and Davis ended up getting 7 and 1 motion to all of them.
Yeah.
Which was pretty ridiculous.
So yeah, 7 won that, and then like a ton of people got like 5 and 6 in the heavies.
Yeah.
And that was what 300.
310.
Whatever. Something. Yeah. 3-ish.
3-ish.
And then it was yoke after that, I think.
It was yoke.
Yeah. And I think Danny won the yoke again. On the heavyweight side, I think 5 won for the heavyweight women in the log, and in the both the Idaho girls won the lightweight and middleweight yoke. Rachel Pyron and Danny Schwabe both won. They're fast. I said I think the potatoes are cheating. Whatever, that must be what's it, because it like makes you really good at pressing things.
Especially if they're grass-fed potatoes. Grass-fed potatoes, those are going to help the most.
Definitely. But yeah, it was a good contest. I think how it worked is the women did 4 events and then the guys did 5. So you pretty much, they skipped out on the circus dumbbell. I mean on the stone the day before, and then they did circus dumbbell then stones.
Yep.
Towards pretty much, I think the keg. I really liked the keg event. I thought that was fun. Dude, that was something.
I love the keg event.
That's
a good point to talk about.
Yeah, it was something I would have liked to have done as a competitor. Like if that was in a show I was doing, I would have been excited for it. If it was sandbags equal distance, I would not be, because there's no handles on sandbags, so I always hated carrying sandbags for very far.
Yeah.
But kegs I could move pretty good with.
But Kale, that's CrossFit.
So
you're moving.
Oh, so if you have to
You're moving
carry,
kegs far distances.
so
Yeah.
if an event takes, if you're sprinting back and forth, what was there? How many kegs were there? 5?
5.
Yeah, that's a hard medley. That's a lot of moving, and there was one at 75, two at 50, and then two at 25.
Yep.
So yeah, that's a lot of moving back and forth.
I was really happy about that event. That was my best event.
Yeah,
So
well, you got what, fourth or fifth in it?
yeah, I ended up getting 5th, and then then Gabe, Trey, and Davis all beat me by like a second and a half, and then Ken ended up taking the overall in that by like 2.5 seconds. Ken was wicked fast on those.
Yeah, you pretty much won that event until like the last 2-3 heats. Those people pushing it,
But anyway, there was some controversy afterwards about people saying that when you have that many kegs, it should be heavier and it shouldn't be running like that. Well, I don't know. One of the competitions that I've watched in the past, World's Strongest Man. I'm not sure if you've watched it.
no,
A lot of times.
I didn't go to Botswana, so.
Oh, okay.
And I don't have CBS Sports.
How many they go? I mean, they go a pretty good distance. It's at least, I know it's in meters, but it's
20 meters.
Okay, it's 20 meters. So that's
20-25, which is 40, 60 feet, something like that.
2 feet.
I think 20 meters, 44 feet.
20 meters is 65 feet.
Oh, yeah, I think they go 20 meters.
And they normally do 3 implements, not crazy heavy.
They do 4.
Okay, 4.
Always 4.
So, and they're roughly about 275.
They were usually 250, and they just recently upped it, like this year, the last year, to we're gonna make them 275. And they would just be normal sandbags. Like that's a normal weight for a medley like that. Right.
So what if you knew that event was coming up in a competition? What would you do?
Well, we had a similar when I did nationals in 2014. Chad Wesley Smith did my programming.
Uh-huh.
And it had, I think it was 3 kegs, and then we had to do a wheelbarrow. And it was like, each keg was like 60, 40, and 20 feet.
Yeah.
I remember getting the first week, and he's like, okay, I want you to run these kegs 150, 80, and 60 feet at like 70%. And I was like, huh? But it worked really well. I did very good in the keg loading part of that. I just messed, which is irrelevant on why I messed up overall in the event with the wheelbarrow part. But the actual keg loading, I was in the same heat with Patrick Castelli, and I beat him by a good margin, and I even fumbled the kegs. I don't know what the hell was wrong with me. Probably because I just went to China like 3 days before that.
Yeah.
But I would be training lighter implements for very long distances, because I know if I'm that level of competitor, I'm probably strong enough to do whatever the hell I want with a 250-pound keg. It's just how fast and how long can I do it for.
Well, my point is, if you knew that was coming up in a contest, you would train that specific event, right? You would train medleys.
I would be carrying lighter kegs for very long distances. And also he had me want to do like 3 sets of this with like 2 minutes rest. I was like, Chad, it takes more than 2 minutes to reset this up.
Yeah, and also I need at least 20 minutes to go lay down and think about quitting the sport.
Yes, right? But yeah, I have a lot of my clients. Yeah, I'll do, like carry a keg 20 seconds, rest 10 seconds, I carry it for 20 seconds, like doing like stuff like that. Yeah, you'd be training your conditioning. That's the smart thing to do.
I forget what Ken told me he was doing with kegs, but he was doing some pretty brutal keg training leading up to that, and he ended up winning that event. Go figure, because he trained it really hard.
Yeah, well, Andrew Triana does his training, and he's a smart guy. So and you see how he brutalizes like the Hadge brothers, which he also trains. So, and they seem to be pretty athletic. So yeah, it's like you have to train those specific events. Like, it's one of those things. Like, yeah, like at Worlds, it's going to be about 4 implements, and you'll see some of these guys at Worlds not do well.
And it's surprising because you're like, well, that guy is crazy strong.
He can deadlift like 900, close to 1,000 pounds, but didn't finish all 4 implements.
If you look at, okay, so let's say 30 competitors over the heats. I wonder how many people didn't finish. I mean, it's a pretty good amount that don't finish the medley.
Yeah, I'd say it's at least 20% minimum.
Yeah.
So it just shows that, like, it's funny watching those events when there's like long medleys like that, because it gets like more and more boring as the weight classes go up.
Yeah.
Like, all like the lightweight women were just like cruising. The middleweights,
crazy.
The middleweights were stupid fast on all of them on it, and then the middleweight guys, some of them were pretty fast, and then like a lot of the heavies were like, I didn't sign up for this shit.
But my point is, I mean, we do sign up.
But
for
you
it,
did, yeah. But yeah,
you know what's coming, so you prepare for it, and that leads us into the deadlift conversation.
Yeah, the deadlift. I'll say it right now: is the deadlift was dumb. I don't understand how the weights were chosen.
It was light.
It was really light, and knowing the frame at the end was going to be a silly pickup. But like, I would have looked at that and went, "What the fuck?" But again, you'd be like, "Okay, I'm going to need to be like pulling like sets of 50 on frame picks." Or whatever,
So, I told you, I really wish we hadn't been able to use straps.
I agree. I don't think with how heavy it was, there's any that straps should have been allowed.
Well, because up until I found out that we were using straps like a month out from the competition, because there had never been any discussion about it. Like 2 days prior, I sent you a picture of the callus I tore. I tore like a quarter-sized callus off my hand after like 7 reps. So I think there would have been a lot of that. You wouldn't have seen. I doubt you would have seen north of 20. I doubt that.
You can't. There'd be a lot more resting, because you can't hold on. The majority, unless there's some grip freaks out there, they can't hold on to a frame like that, as it's then also jarring and hitting the ground and etc. for 45 seconds or however 50 seconds, however long they were lifting it straight. You can't do that. It's just not going to happen. But then everyone would have just complained that it was stupid and it's not supposed to be a grip event. So
well, ultimately, like we talked about before, like we knew what we signed up for, so that's what we had to train for. Like I think that's why Ken won that event, because he trained high rep frame deadlifts.
Yeah.
And he did 27 reps and looked like he could have done 35. Like he won that with a little bit of time to spare.
Really?
So yeah, I was watching him from the side right there.
Huh.
Yeah. So if there's a pro card on the line, and generally any Platinum Plus, there's probably going to be 4 or 5 guys that are right at that level already.
Yeah, any one of them could probably win, depending
any
on
one of those top 5 could have won.
Whose day it is.
I
mean, it's funny because like increasing your deadlift from, to get it from like 800 to 830, will probably make you a better pro strongman or better prepared to compete in the pros.
Yeah.
Than doing sets of 30 on frame deadlifts, but it might be to win your pro card, you might be wanting to do like sets of 20 to 30 frame deadlifts.
Yeah, I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
It's like you're thinking too far ahead, But like I've done the similar. It's like if I saw, like if I was the couple nationals, I knew like I was having back problems, and heavy like regular bar deadlifts would mess stuff up. But I know it's a car deadlift. Then I just wouldn't even worry about it.
Do a car deadlift. Yeah.
I wouldn't ever regular deadlift. That's not going to help at all. And I already, I know my skill level. The car deadlift's it's pretty good money for me. So.
I mean, you can use an off season to take your deadlift up 50 pounds, or if you don't have a heavy deadlift in a competition. You know,
Mm-hmm.
once I didn't have a heavy deadlift, I was like, okay, 575, I can do that in my sleep. Well, I'm going to pull a little bit, but I'm not going to push my deadlift that hard. Why?
Yeah. You have
Push
to.
push the frame deadlift.
Yeah, you're gonna push the frame. You're gonna spend more of your training emphasis on log because that's what you
Yep.
need to work on. I mean, it's hard to think about these things, and like take all the ego and everything out of it, and think about it like you're training for an actual sport. You're not training to be like the strongest person, because when a contest is strongman, it seems like it doesn't make sense, but it really is. You're training for a specific game. It's like if you're in the NFL and like, okay, we got to stop this team's run, but they're like, but
Yeah.
our cornerbacks aren't really that great, so they need to worry about this. I'm like, well, that's not what you're doing next week. Like, they don't have that game, so you're not going to prepare for that specific challenge because that's not what this is. Even if, overall, you need to spend more time on that to be like a more complete team or strongman or strength athlete.
I think. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, you need to focus on the specific task that you have in front of you.
And I think that's why. Honestly, I think that's why. That's why Davis won last weekend was
Mm-hmm.
because he trained very specifically for the events that he had coming up. Like he was doing a ton of. He's really good at one motioning the log, and he's really good at one motioning it right around 300. So what did he do? He one motioned it around 300 a lot.
Yeah, and
It wasn't. He wasn't pushing his 1RM up because
there's no point.
what's that going to do? If he goes from 350 to 360, cool. But is he going to be able to do more reps at 300? No, probably not
necessarily.
unless he trains it. Unless he trains it.
Yeah, you need to worry about your timing, breathing, cadence on making sure you can get 7 reps at 300 instead of 6.
It was fun towards the end because Davis was kind of hanging out with the crew of guys that came up with
Yeah,
him.
'cause he's somewhat local there.
Yeah, and they were trying to figure out who won, and
Always the question.
At that point, the 6 of them were convinced that Davis had lost by half a point.
Uh-huh.
So he gave me all of his standings, and then I was like, no, dude, the points get split like this, and then you go to count back, and I was like, you won. And they're like, no way. I was like, yeah. I was like, you want to bet on it? And I should have bet some money on it because I figured that he had won by half a point, because of however they did the points on stones at the end. I don't know.
Yeah, and that was over Gabe Pena, who, he's right there. He looked really good.
Okay, so him on the yoke. Okay, the dude dropped the yoke, dropped it, and still won.
Yeah,
that's how fast he was going.
I think he won it fairly easily too.
It was was it? It wasn't sub 10. Low teens, in terms of seconds. It was freaking quick.
But it was also 75 feet. It wasn't like 50 or 60.
Yeah, it was 75. But he dropped it at about a little further past halfway, and I was like, oh, but he picked it up immediately and just resumed flying.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that's quick.
Yeah, I think all the guys that were in the top 3-4 there in the heavyweights will probably all have their pro cards by mid next year.
Sure, I'd like to see more of it. Yeah.
But it's just it's and what everyone pretty much got right around 30 reps on the deadlift per class, 25 to 30.
Yeah, the heavyweights are mostly around 20, and then Ken got 27, and Davis got 26.
Yeah.
But they were pretty high reps all around.
Yeah, and it ended up in the middleweights being between Chris Burke and Jeff Lee. And I think Jeff also won that by half a point, I believe.
He won the yeah, he did win the whole event. He didn't win the frame deadlift, and he was kind of pissed about that, I'm sure, because obviously he wanted to win overall. But then he crushed the stone, so he ended up taking the whole thing.
Yeah, no, he looked really good, and then I saw Chris Burke tearing his stone sleeves off midway, which that must have been a shitty feeling. Because I don't think what's that? I don't think that they work really well on
I
the.
like them inside out. I recommended that to a couple people. That's how I like it because it keeps your forearms from getting moist, and also I have a ridiculous competitive skin. I've done stainless steel once without reverse sleeves on, and that was like 3 months ago, and I still have scars from that. It's ridiculous. Very sensitive skin.
Yeah, with the stone of steel.
But that tacky towel that they're letting us use now, that's pretty awesome. That's very helpful. Just gives you a little bit. I mean, it doesn't rub off on the stone, but your hands get a little bit sticky, and it helps. They were selling them there, so they let us use those.
Was Strongman Corp selling them?
Yes.
Smart.
Yeah. Why not? Yeah.
I would. Yeah, so in the middleweight, Jeff Lee ended up winning his pro card, and I think Chris Burke and Jess Reeves, or was it Jeff Reeves, got like second or third. I'm not sure exactly which one on that. In the heavies, Davis Dilly won his pro card, and Gabe Pena was second. And we had Trey in third.
Trey in third, yes.
Yeah, and then Ken, I think, got fourth or fifth. Ken
got fourth.
Got fourth, yeah.
Yeah, I think that they didn't give him a rep on the log because his belt popped off on the log.
Mm-hmm.
He had one of the spud belts on, and for whatever reason, he didn't give him get given that rep.
He didn't wait for the down because he was too concerned about his belt. Yeah, I saw that Jeff Lee's spud belt also popped off on the log.
Really?
Yeah, I think that's why he fell down. But no, it's not why he fell down. But then the women I heard like right before it rules, they were told that they were going to take only the top 60% from each class onto day 2 because they of course had 2 more events going into day 2.
Mm-hmm.
And so that would kind of suck to go there and you're like, okay, I guess I'm not making day 2, and I didn't really get the point in cutting the field when there was only it wasn't like there's 20 or 30 a class.
Sure,
there's, 9 or 10.
It makes sense at the Arnold. But...
Yeah, and they only had 2 events. I don't think it would have. You're cutting 3 or 4 competitors each class. That's what 2. That's 6 more heats total. 6-8 more heats total. So
yeah.
Anyways, though, but of course with cutting competitors comes cutting points. Because it's called Normalizing the Scores, which I've never really understood how it works, but I guess there's some sort of math to it, how they do it at the Arnold, which isn't exactly how it was done here.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't done the same way they did it this year at the Arnold. Okay.
No.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think like the Arnold, it's like they times the second day competitors by the first day competitors, or vice versa or something.
Okay.
And here it was basically like, okay, so we cut the bottom 40%, they cut 4 from each group. So then now we're going to just, it was pretty much 40% of the scores didn't count. So it would be your day 1 score times 0.4.
Okay.
Is how it worked. And yeah, that probably made no sense for anyone that's listening. So it's like basically, if you had 29 points, and then you're just going to go, 29 times 0.4, that's your day 2 score, which makes, if you had, a couple point lead, now you have, a point lead, or, it basically almost cuts your lead in half.
Now that ended up giving, there was a tie in the middleweights because of that when they normalized them?
Yeah, when they counted up the deadlift score, they had, I think, Lifa and someone else both had like 24 reps in the middleweight women. Mm-hmm. And so they awarded, I think, Lifa more points. Like they didn't count in the half a point, the tie. So then when they went back and did it, it was just like, a decimal wasn't carried. And it should have, it had at the end, if Lifa would have won that outright instead of tie, then after normalization, her and Danny would have both had 11.6. So after they basically had to take half a point away from her, which would have tied her with Kimberly Lawrence, with Leafa with Kimberly Lawrence, who had 11.4. They should have all had 11.4, but somehow it just got screwed up that then everyone had 11.6. So it was a three-way tie going into day 2 when Danny should have had a 0.2 of a point lead. But you know, stuff like that happens. You know, it took me, like, I was spending all day. I'm like, is this how it went? Because I didn't even know it was divided by 0.4.
Yeah.
You know, because when people are like, how'd this happen? And you start kind of looking into it on Sunday, and you know, of course, I have to do the wrap up of what happened. So,
I have to figure out what happened first.
Yeah, I'm not sure. This seems like this isn't what happened.
Yeah.
But you know, with that, so everyone, you know, they said, you know, all the athletes. From what I heard, all the athletes, the 3 athletes got taken aside to say, hey, we messed up these deadlift scores, and it made you all in a 3-way tie. And all of the athletes said, okay, all right, yeah, cool, that makes sense. Which I think is what's a strong consideration for any time why it's great to have a coach or a handler with you.
Yeah.
Because if you're an athlete, you are not, like, I know if I was competing, I would probably not be thinking of that.
You don't want to worry about it.
I'm not going to be analyzing the scores and busting out a calculator and being like, no, I should be this, you should be that. You know, it's just, it's hard, you know, it's hard enough to try to compete. And there's a lot of prize money on the line here, you know, for like $4,000 in each class. So it's a good amount of money. And I think second got $250. So, or $300, something like that. But so it was a lot less, big drop off. Might have been 500, but either way, not 4,000. But yeah, then the circus dumbbells, the first event. In the middleweights, I think the lightweights, Jessica Kite won by a rep. Mm-hmm. And then in the middleweights, Danny won by like 10 reps. That was insane. Did you watch day 2?
No, I was asleep. By the time I woke up and we started texting, I had just woke. Yeah, that was over.
It was already good and done.
Good and done.
But yeah, Danny did 14 reps in a minute.
Wow.
With a 110-pound dumbbell. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if there's a point where I ever could have done that.
That is freaking fast, man.
I mean,
even faster than the log. Yeah, that's ludicrous.
Yeah. I mean, I've competing as a lightweight man, 175 pounds. There's good level contests that I've went to a couple years ago that would have like a 120-pound dumbbell for reps or something. You know, fairly comparable weights, and I think I remember winning one of them with 2 against people that have placed at nationals. You know, like.
Yeah, so 14 that's pretty awesome.
You know, and of course things evolve. Like I got 2, and I think there was another contest where it was like 120, 125, or like 130. Like, you know, not very different. And I won with like 6 or something. So.
But 14 is literally nonstop.
Yeah. No, I don't even know. That was great. And then Kimberly Lawrence got second with 4, which, you know, that's a big difference, but it's only 1 point.
Yeah.
There was, you know, so that was important. And then the stones were insane for the women. It seemed like every class they were like pretty much rep for rep, and then you know, one would get like 11 and 12, and that's moving. You know, you're even factoring in how fast the person pushes it back to you on stone over bar.
Yep.
Especially without tacky, that's really fast. And then in the middleweights, the last heat was, the lightweights, Leslie Hoffens won to end up winning by 0.2 points overall. And she won motion like every single one of them.
How many did you do?
I think 13, maybe 14.
That's a ton of reps.
Yeah, but it was like where a lot of them, they never stopped moving. She took a couple breaks there, but because she won motion them, that they were, you know, her reps were done so much faster that, you know, she was able to.
Yeah.
And I think the difference is like, I think Jessica Kite, who ended up getting second, had almost the same amount of reps, but one was taken away because she loaded it a little low and grabbed the crossbars.
Oh,
I think that was literally the difference between
wow.
her winning or not, if she got that rep over. But I'm not
That's
entirely sure.
That's a fairly recent rule, isn't it?
No,
Grabbing the
not at this point. It's,
no,
I think,
couple years.
yeah, 2-3 years. Like it was,
Okay.
yeah. Which I hated because I was a big fan of grabbing the crossbar, but
Yeah, why not, dude? Anything you can do.
yeah, it's easier. But athletes adapt, and then yeah, it came down again. As we thought we are pretty much in a tie. And I, as a viewer, was thinking, okay, in the middleweights, like Kimberly has to beat Danny by at least a place or two to win, because Danny obviously won the dumbbell. But I didn't know they're taking split times on the stones, which which has been done in the past, but I don't really understand. I think that's pretty hard to do, and I think if you take split times on any rep event, then you should take split times on every rep event.
Split times are really, really tough to do.
Yeah, but I don't know why you're going to do split times on stones, but you're not going to do it on circus dumbbell or log or deadlift. But I guess it could be so there's less ties, maybe. I don't know. But it basically, just cut to the point, they both ended up with 14. And I was like, oh, all right, well, there was a tie. And then they came back with the scores and they said, no, that's actually a tie overall, because Kimberly's went over, a couple tenths of a second faster.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had to do a 200-pound keg carry for max distance.
Yeah, how far did they end up going with that?
I think Kimberly looked like she could have kept going.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like she didn't even look phased at some point. It's one thing I noticed with Danny's on the keg carry medley is her foot movement's kind of weird on the front carry. Like it's pretty bow-legged, like where she's really fast with the yoke. I don't know what it is with the keg carry where it just doesn't look very fluid. But so I'm like, I kind of didn't think I thought it was gonna go Kimberly's way when they announced what the tiebreaker event was gonna be. So that was good drama, and then she won. But then, of course, there was recanted after the math there was figured out, and I think it was a very professional thing how it was done.
It was done well. It's still, you hate to hear that for someone.
It's just, it should, you'd like if someone won without it, that they get to have that moment where you win and you come off the field and you're celebrating. And so it almost like neither one of them ended up getting that moment, because it's like, shit, I lost. And then you like this whole thing of like, well, are they going to say I actually won because I actually won? And then it's just like, yeah, well, I won. And then you don't get that elation of it. And then the exact opposite with Kimberly, like she thought she was tied. She did what she had to do to win. And then she gets that moment, especially like a head-to-head tiebreaker like that, like, oh, I just won, especially coming off of winning the Arnold. And then you that same moment, you look back and you're like, oh, you still are going to feel it. I imagine you're still going to feel like you won.
Yeah. So,
looking back.
Kind of switching gears a little bit, but they've had all these failed drug tests with the Olympics recently, right?
Yeah. Like,
so people
years.
go from or as many as 8 years. Like
Yeah.
We're going back to Beijing. So, you have people that like go from 4th to 3rd, and like, do they start like FedExing medals around? Like, that's what I wonder. Like, you're like, oh, well, now you're a bronze medalist from the 2008 Olympics.
It can't mean the same thing.
Exactly. Like that moment never happened. So like you see a box at your door and you walk, and you're like, huh, bronze medal, cool.
I guess I'll put that up on the mantle.
Yeah, like you take an Instagram picture, you look completely different because it's 8 years later and you're retired. You're like, oh, here's my bronze medal from Beijing, I guess.
And then like, so imagine like let's say you won a bronze medal in Beijing, 8 years later, you're awarded it because other people, their stored samples tested positive. And then you're talking to your grandparents. I mean, your grandkids, like way down the line, and they're like, Granddad, I heard you won a Olympic, like silver medal or something. And they're like, yeah, I did. They're like, well, I want to watch the Olympics you did.
Yeah. And then he's like, actually, I had a GoPro when I picked up the box at the front door, and that was about as best as I could capture the moment.
Yeah, it's not the same thing. Like,
yeah,
to get way off on another tangent, to just keep going on that, it doesn't award the same thing. I think it's still good that the right thing is done down the line, but I will say I draw where I think that's the right thing, where they're retesting old samples 8 years later. I'm like,
let's retest at this point. Let's retest the samples from the 80s. You know what I mean? Like, how far can we go back? Are we going to start digging up people?
I think.
If we can get the rights, we'll dig up the grave and we'll test the bones.
I don't know. I think a lot of people are going to take what I don't think many people are going to agree with me, but I feel that beating the drug test is part of the sport. So if you were able to do it with those rules that were in place at that time, then you won.
Yeah, do you mean to tell me that you think people at that level in the Olympics are on drugs?
I would.
No way. Oh, gosh.
I'm not going to spend all that fucking time. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm going to invest my whole life into something and not do everything you could. Fuck that.
Not do what your competitors are doing.
Not even that. I'd try to do what they're not doing. That's called an advantage.
Yeah. Sleep in an altitude chamber, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. How's that any different? But
yeah.
On the same lines, actually, I don't know if you've seen it. I started to watch the Lance Armstrong documentary last night.
Oh, from where's that from? Is it new?
It's from like 2015, 2014.
Oh, okay.
I think it was called At All Costs.
Oh, okay.
Really good.
Netflix?
It's on Showtime Anytime is what I was watching it on. I don't know. I think it has been on Netflix, but yeah,
fancy.
I have
Showtime Anytime.
Well, they gave me like 3 months free. Well, I have to get Showtime to watch Ray Donovan, and then I have Apple TV, so I have the app, and I was looking through in documentaries. I actually have been finding lots of good documentaries on there. Before that, I watched one called Meet the Hitlers, which was also very entertaining.
Jeez.
It was all these people that happened to have the name Hitler.
Oh man.
And
no, I've never heard of that either.
I will also recommend watching that. It was pretty entertaining. Because
I bet that raises some eyebrows. Hitler 39.
Yeah, and it's they keep they're introducing all these people, and each one just gets weirder and weirder.
Oh, I'm definitely gonna watch this.
Yeah, you have to look it up if you can find it. It's a good watch both of them. They're both good in very different ways, but like, yeah, the one guy at the end, he actually lives in Germany, and he has a lion tattooed on his bald head, like on the top of it, like a giant, and like the feet like come down to like his.
Yeah, that wouldn't incite fear in anyone.
And he's like, my last name's Hitler, and I just people don't like me, but I tattooed a lion, and he wears a hat like the entire time.
So what do you do? I'm a kindergarten teacher.
He works on barges.
Oh, okay.
He's like, he's pretty sad, that guy, but what I like is people like. And it's funny because like 3 people in a row had the same like mentality. They're like, people ask me, why don't you change your name? I say, I wouldn't ask you why you would change yours. Why would I change mine? I'm like, well,
that's kind of a weak argument.
That doesn't hold up.
Yeah. My name's not Hitler.
Yeah.
Okay. My last name's Beck, and no one gets scared when I say that's my last name.
And my last name's my last name is Beck because it had to be changed because my ancestors were scared of Hitler. like that's not they're like, we need to make our name more German so we can flee and not be held up at the borders.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Little history lesson for today.
yeah, my original like grandfather and grandmother's like actual name. It was like freaking the most Jewiest thing you've ever heard. I don't remember it, but they're like, yeah, we're the Becks, and we're gonna flee to the Philippines.
And that's the life story of Kalle Beck
Yeah, that's
and
part
his
of it.
ancestry.
Yeah, wasn't named. That could have been a move. They could have tried to chosen Hitler at that point.
They're like, this is probably not going to work out when they make a documentary in 2014. But if I get a lion tattoo,
yeah,
maybe we can make it work.
No, they're like, we'll stick with Beck. It's
Beck,
literally
Beck.
German for beer, so
It's fine.
Nice and simple.
Well, should we circle back to the heavyweight women? Should we finish with that?
Oh yeah, there was heavyweight women. Yeah, that was interesting because Brittany Cornelius looked really good the whole weekend, but then on the Stone of Steel, so she had amassed a pretty good lead. She was the only class where it was like everyone else that was decided. It ended up being. That's what I think is really interesting is like every class was decided by less than a point.
Yeah.
Except I think the heavyweight women, and she looked good, except on the Stone of Steel, she could not get a grip on it.
Did she end up getting any reps?
No, but she still won.
Man. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Yeah, like I said, sleeping. But she was strong all weekend.
Yeah, she was right up there.
Every event I saw her on.
Yeah,
her yoke was crazy fast.
She got beat by about half a second in the yoke by Brooke Sousa, who I think ended up getting second overall.
Okay.
Who is also going to be at World's Strongest Woman.
What is the difference between that competition and World's Strongest Woman?
What the difference between the Strongest Woman in the World and World's Strongest Woman is one got the licensing rights to the name by IMG.
There you go.
So
you heard it here first.
I think I think that's correct. But the way I see, and then also USS, United States Strongman, is putting on their USS Pro Women's Worlds coming up. I think it's in October or like.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Yeah, I have a client training for that. So
and then in March we have the Arnold Strongwoman Classic. Is that what they're going to call it?
There's going to be some sort of pro strongwoman show.
Yeah, on the main stage.
From what I can gather, yeah, and there's going to be some prize money, and I think it's going to be open weight.
Cool.
Which raises a question. It's like, so are they going to invite 135-pound women? Because that's probably not going to work out very well. No offense to any of them.
I mean, it'd probably be similar to, they'll have to figure out something similar to how they do the Arnold Strongman Classic, how they get people. But then again, Zach Hatch is going, and he's going to be, he's around 240, and he's going to the big stage.
That's true. I think, depending on how they structure the events, I think the Arnold Strongwoman Classic, however it ends up, the middleweight's like 180 pounds is still, that you're good size. Like I don't think that I think a lot of them are going to be competitive with the heavyweights. Like they might have more of a max log, but then if there's some sort of crazy like max distance Husafelt or something, or it's all going to depend on how they structure the events. What type of competitor it's going to favor.
I think if they wanted some advice, they should talk to Kalle Hitler. I'm sorry, Kalle Beck. Kalle Beck. Wait a minute, that also begs a question. Is the reason you have your hair the way you do to cover the lion tattoo?
Yes. Underneath, it's actually if you look at the back of my neck, there's a tail that starts to come down.
Oh, I thought that was a tattoo of Willow.
Yeah. The guy actually said too that the lion tattoo, he got it because he was friends with he got friends with someone who was deep in Islam, and the lion means like courage in Islam.
I wish he had said it was because I have a lion at home.
No, this guy went on and on saying that he has nothing. He was very, very adamant in his I have nothing lifestyle. Like I work on a barge. I have no house. I have no car. Like it was like, geez, dude. Like, all right,
It's just
get
me, just me and the lion and Hitler.
it. Yeah. No, that's pretty much what he said. He was an orphan. Yeah, he's pretty sad.
Jeez.
But so I think this coming up on the 17th at World's Strongest Woman, we're going to kind of see how the middleweights mix up with the heavies.
Yeah.
Because Leafa Ingalls, who competed this past weekend, is also competing at that contest against people like Kristen Rhodes, Donna Moore, and Brooke Sosa is going to be there as well. I think the UK Jenny Todd trains with Donna Moore, and I think she's more towards the middleweight size, like 180-ish pounds. So it'll be interesting.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
That's on Flow Elite too, though, right?
Yeah, they're going to do that.
Yep.
So I'll be watching that again on Apple TV, and that's also, of course, going to have the Masters World's Strongest Man showing up, and I think I'm gonna try to get Kristen Rhodes on the show here pretty soon.
Cool.
To talk about it. I think that's the plan. Maybe sometime, probably maybe by the next episode. So, if this one was lackluster, at least we'll have an actual world class athlete.
No, just
ask
all
questions.
you gotta do is make the picture of the guy's head with a lion, that cover photo for this one, and people ask questions.
Yeah.
Like we talk about Hitler? Question mark.
Yeah. Just like when I said a couple weeks ago, Nick Best professes his love for Kalle, I put in the description, and then he's like, yeah, I didn't. And I'm like, yeah, I know, Nick.
That turned out real well.
It was perfect. It was exactly what I planned.
What would be amazing is if somehow you could get in touch with the folks at Flow Elite. So that way, whenever they do the World's Strongest Man Masters, they'll be like, Nick Best, married to Kalle Best, also in love with Kalle Beck.
I mean, if they ask me to do the previews for it,
well, it could happen.
It could happen. But I think that's good. You got anything else you want to add this week, Mike?
No, I've got some documentaries I got to start working on. I really don't know where to start, if it's going to be Meet the Hitlers or the Lance Armstrong one.
I'd start with Meet the Hitlers. Just the same way I did it. It's kind of fun. It's kind of, and then you're going to be like, Jesus, Lance is a fucking asshole. Like, I don't know what it says about me, because like all these people are like, yeah, he defamed my character because if I'd actually tell the truth and testified against him and stuff, I'm like, yeah, he fucking wanted to win, and I'm like, I kind of respect him for it. He's a dick, yeah. But there's something about me that respects that. But I don't know what that says about me.
Well, at the end of the day, Kel, when you look in the mirror, you're like, damn, I've got some great hair.
Yeah, that's...
No one can take that away from you. And then you push it to the side and you look at the lion tattoo and you sleep soundly at night.
No one can take that away either. And that's another podcast. And thanks for listening. You can go on iTunes and hit subscribe or unsubscribe. You can do that too. You can leave a 5-star rating. I think that's what everyone tells you to do, right?
Yes. And click the like button.
Yeah. Like, share, tell all your friends. What I recommend to do is if you go to an Apple store, is to download it on every computer there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's something I recommend to do, because they always make you wait, so you might as well.
That's how you support the Strong Talk podcast.
That's how you support this podcast.
There's going to be someone that posts that in the Facebook group. Like, look what I did.
Hey, I'll repost it.
Awesome.
They take a picture of like 5 iPads in a row, all with the Strong Talk playing, then yeah, that's definitely getting a repost. But and you can follow Mike at Chrono Strength on everything. Follow at Starting Strongman. Go to startingstrongman.com/sponsors to look at stuff and deals and things like that. And talk to you next week.
See you later.